Hell yeah, that works. Oh, I love that. Happy Thursday! It's almost Friday, ladies and gentlemen. It is almost Friday. I am happy about that, let me tell you. Currently on the dyno in a 2020 STI. Flex fuel, DOM15, Cobb front mount, Cobb intake, and all of that. And it's a little laggy, and I'm trying to figure out why it's so laggy. And I hear a bit of a whistle, so I'm hoping that it isn't a boost leak. And I'm wondering if maybe the factory bypass valve is lifting under boost a little bit. It's not super common, it just happens sometimes. So I'm not sure yet what's going on. I'm going to make some changes here and see if anything changes with the performance of this thing. Now it's also it still has stock TGVs in it and all of that. It's still catted, and all those things definitely limit airflow through the engine. And it's possible that the whistling noise is actually the TGV itself just whistling as air goes flying past it. Because I'm at 25 or 26 pounds of boost right now. So, but what's weird about it is with all that boost, I don't have hardly any airflow. Mass airflow was down to like 330. And 330 grams at 25 pounds just doesn't seem like enough to me. Like it, oh yeah, getting attitude. That guy always a fucking attitude all the time. Jesus Christ. Sorry, I'm watching some guy drive like an asshole through the parking lot. So I'm gonna do a pull on this bitch. See if I can get the airflow to go up. Thing is active. Let's do it. Oh, that's funny. Yeah, I didn't really even notice that. He's got a magnet here on his dash, and my phone sticks to it, so I was like, I'll give that a shot and see. Yeah, weird. Alright, let's see my airflow went up in. £25 of boost and only 328 grams per second of air. Something ain't right. I don't know what it is yet. It's driving me crazy. But the reason that I did this stream wasn't for this car. Really, it was for spark plug heat. There were some comments made in the Discord channel talking about spark plug heat, and I told someone it's not a dark art. It's not that hard to figure out what needs to be done. So I figured I would talk about that a little bit, and hopefully that little bit will help everybody out. So let's talk about the spark plugs, right? Spark plugs, when you pull them out, they're not completely black and sooty like your pistons. You look down and see your pistons have carbon buildup on them, and it can be so much that's flaking off. You pull a spark plug out, and it's just a little hazy, right? Like that's different. Why is the spark plug only a little bit hazy when the piston itself has this black, thick, carbon buildup on it? Well, the simple answer is heat. The heat that the spark plug ceramic or the porcelain area retains on the spark plug is the hottest spot in the chamber outside of the combustion by far. And if you were to look at a spark plug and you look at the inner electrode area of the same plug model but with two different heat ranges, what you would see is the ceramic contacts the outer metal housing closer to the surface on a colder plug and further away on a hotter plug. Now what that means is that I have this larger portion of porcelain not coupled to the metal housing, which means it's not coupled to the head, and it's not transferring as much heat to the head, which therefore leaves the tip of that plug hotter than if I were to couple it at a closer distance to the top of the plug. What's up, buddy?
I know you've been busy. Okay, you saw it.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, Chase brought it, or Chase was like, hey, did you get your McFlurry? I was like, no, what the fuck are you talking about? He was like, oh, well, Kevin should have brought you one. And I looked and go, oh, well, there it is.
Yeah, I just said it there because you looked pretty deep in thought.
I didn't even know you were there. So apparently I was pretty deep in thought, yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah,
Trying to figure out what the fuck is going on. Yeah. So. Which reminds me to get a spark plug. Thanks, dude.
Yeah, of course.
Do I have a spark plug in here? I do. Are these used? Yes. Alright. Here's the plug. Makes the lighting better on it. Now notice this threaded area has got some black soot and carb buildup, but the porcelain does not, right? So how hot does that porcelain have to get to clean itself? Well, according to spark plug manufacturers, it has to get between 600 and 700 degrees Celsius to clean itself. So it's got to get pretty fucking hot. Alright, now that ceramic there, you can't tell because it's all dirty inside there, but if you look, see it stays white for a ways down there, and it slowly starts to change color again. And it slowly changes color again as it gets down at the bottom, because that's where the porcelain gets colder and colder and colder, and doesn't get hot enough to clean itself. So then what's the trick with spark plugs? Well, a lot of people go to colder spark plugs. They go to, like, you know, 1 step colder, 2 step colder, or whatever in the spark plugs, and they go, oh, it's for power or something. I don't know what the fuck you're talking about, right? But it's not, right? It's not for power. And in fact, going to a colder plug almost always causes a reduction in power. Wait, what? Yeah. So when you go to a colder plug, what happens is you get less efficient atomization of the fuel around this area. So picture, if you will, a cold plug. It's so cold, the air and fuel hits it, doesn't atomize very well. You're gonna foul the plug really quick. Spark goes off. The spark goes off, and there's so much fuel that's just plated out, right? It's not atomized with the air. It won't ignite. You could drop a match into a bucket of fuel, and it won't even catch on fire. So they say. I ain't gonna fucking try it, right? Now, that being said, this plug is fucked. I wish you could see how bad it is. Focus, no focus very well. This tip is worn to shit. It's got like a gigantic gap on it. I can't even get it to focus, but it's pretty bad. It's kind of funny. So then what's the key? Well, the key is using the hottest plug you can get away with. If I had this hot spot in the cylinder, people go, oh, you need, you know, not as much for less knock and that kind of stuff. I mean, sure, I guess, like, it could get to a point where the hotter plug can induce knock, but the problem with that is that the tip of that plug is where the ignition event happens. And if the ignition event happens right there, then the fuel in that area gets burned out faster, and that isn't a secondary location for a flame front to occur. Secondary location for flame front to occur has to be somewhere else in the chamber. So then why go to a colder plug? Well, one, you can melt them, right? If you increase horsepower output, the plug will get too hot, and then you can melt them or damage them. And the last one is pre-ignition, not pre-detonation. If anyone says pre-detonation, you punch them in the fucking dick. No such thing as pre-detonation. There's pre-ignition and there's detonation. It ain't for detonation. Detonation occurs around 20 degrees after top dead center, somewhere at 20 to 30-ish, maybe even as low as 15 to 30, somewhere in there, but it's around peak cylinder pressure. That's where detonation occurs. So you've already burned through a portion of your charge, fuel and air, before knock even happens, or detonation even happens. And so the normal combustion started at the plug. Therefore, you're not going to have a secondary ignition point at the plug. So going to a colder plug just to reduce knock, it doesn't make any sense. That's not what you're actually doing. Now, can it reduce knock? Yeah. if your ignition timing is already so fucking advanced that the higher level of atomization around the tip of the spark plug before the spark event happens causes the flame to burn faster in that region, and the flame lights off quicker, then yeah, now your ignition is too far advanced because your burn speed is too high, right? And that's one thing I try and tell all my students all the time is ignition timing is all about burn speed. It's all about compensating for the things that change burn speed. What changes burn speed? Heat. How does heat do that? Because it affects atomization. What does atomization do with it? Because a more homogeneous mixture burns quicker and more uniformly than a stratified non-homogeneous mixture. So if I have a hot plug that's atomized in a bunch more fuel and I light it off, it's going to burn faster. It's not going to knock because it's a secondary ignition point, but only because I've lit off the charge and it's a lot faster than my current ignition map will allow. But then of course there's the pre-ignition aspect of it. You can get it so hot that it lights before the spark event, and that's when bad shit happens. Now, you're not going to be like, oh yeah, my car was you know, it was pre-ignition on my car yesterday, so I put cold plugs in it. That's not going to happen. It's going to be, there was pre-ignition on my car yesterday, so I pulled the engine, replaced the rods and the pistons, and next time I'm going to put colder plugs in it, all right? Pre-ignition is something that just fucking happens. You're like, oh yeah, that's cool, it happened once, we're good to go. Pre-ignition breaks shit. And it isn't like detonation, where you can have 300 events of detonation before a piston cracks. Pre-ignition is a thing like, oh, when it happens, shit fucking breaks. That's just the way it is. There's too much energy in pre-ignition. So what do we do again? We use the hottest plug we can get away with because we want the best atomization of the charge around the electrode. What does that do for us? One, it minimizes the chance of us blowing out spark, right? You've heard of a spark blowout. It's a weird name for it. It isn't really spark blowout because you're not blowing anything out. The spark hasn't occurred yet. What you're doing is you're quenching it. You're adding too much non-conductive material, being air and fuel, between these electrodes that your spark energy isn't high enough to ionize the material between the two electrodes and create a spark event. You're not blowing shit out. It ain't like you have so much airflow through the cylinder that you're, nope, no spark, I'm blowing it out. Like, that's not happening, okay? What are you really doing? You're quenching it. You're adding too much non-conductive material between these 2 points that the spark can't, or the coils can't provide enough energy to ionize that material between those 2 points. I know I said it twice, but I find if I say it 3 times, people get it more often, right? Now I said non-conductive material. Fuel doesn't conduct electricity. A lot of people don't realize that. They're like, what? What do you mean? Neither does air. Not very well. So air by itself, air is often used as an insulator. It's used in capacitors, it's used in arc chutes for large breakers, it's used in your cylinder unintentionally. It's an insulator between these 2 electrodes. What do we got? I got some questions here. Let me answer some questions real quick before I continue. Does mask and seat count as passenger? Obviously not. Hey Stas, what's a good plug for the STI if not a step colder? I didn't say a step colder wasn't good. I just said it isn't for power. A lot of people are mistaken. Now, it's because of power, right? And that's the difference. It's not for power, it's because of power that you change your plug temperature range. I think I remember made a simple post on the Facebook page, if someone wants to read it, at least with regards to how to choose plug temperature. I don't recall, maybe you did. I apologize, I don't remember. So, back to where I was, air and fuel don't conduct electricity. If you don't believe me, ask your fuel pump. Ask your fuel level gauge. If fuel conducted electricity, your gas gauge would always read full. But it doesn't. Because those components, those wiper arms are sitting in the bath of fuel, continually in fuel. And the little wiper sweeps across the little conducting plates on that rheostat. No. Oh, I made the post. Oh, I thought you said you made the post. I think I remember made a similar post. Oh, I thought you said you did. What's up, dude?
Just came to see if you enjoyed your McFlurry.
What I ate of it, I enjoyed it, yeah.
That's all I had.
All right, thank you.
Have
thought I heard that slide. I was like, oh, maybe he's done with the car.
Oh no, not yet. I'm still trying to figure out the squeal and why I have 25 pounds of boost on this thing and only 330 grams per second of air, which would be like 340 wheel, 350 wheel at 25, 26 pounds of boost. Weird, right?
Shouldn't it be higher horsepower than that?
Oh yeah. Yeah, on this Dom 1.5, that boost level should definitely be higher than that. So I'm trying to figure out why. This has stock TGVs. What up pipe is it? Stock up pipe? Maybe that's it. Maybe this is too fucking restrictive. Stock up pipe's pretty small. That would be a good test one of these days. Because there have been cars that have run really good with Dom 1.5s and then were not so good on other cars, and we're like, what's the difference? Like the same fucking setup?
I guess it would make sense
Maybe we
because
need to
like
do
some of
up
the
pipes.
externally gated ones, which the external gate doesn't add power, but they have an aftermarket up pipe that's bigger.
External gate does add power. A little bit. Because it reduces back pressure and it puts less of the exhaust back into the exhaust
marginal,
again.
but I think the big noticeable difference would be an up pipe.
Could be, yeah. Yeah, but external gates can add 20 wheel just by having them. Depending on how restricted the exhaust is post-turbo.
Right.
But yeah. Maybe it's just this thing is too fucking restrictive. Or that bypass valve is lifting. But the bypass valve is lifting, you would think that it wouldn't make boost very well. It is a little laggy. It is laggy, but it's not taking a whole lot of duty cycle to do it. Like I'm only like 50-something% and I'm getting 25, 26 pounds out of it. So I'm really, like a lot of these numbers just aren't balancing out. They're not making sense.
That makes sense.
No. I don't know. So we'll see. I cranked it up the boost much more. Airflow didn't go very much.
There's a restriction somewhere.
There's got to be, right? If I increase boost and I don't get a significant gain in airflow, then there's a restriction somewhere. But what the hell is it?
Pretty much every other 1.5 I've seen come out of here has an externally gated up pipe.
Many of them do.
This is like the first one we've done that's not.
Maybe that's what it is. Well, does Richard have external gate? Oh yeah, well, he has
He
a
did on
3.0
the, he
too,
did
but
on, well, he did on the stock turbo too. Yep.
Right? Yeah.
And then that dude with the bug eye, we did a 1.5 on.
Mm-hmm.
He had an externally gated up pipe. This is the first 1.5 car we've done with internal gate or internal actuator.
That we can remember. That you can remember.
Right.
Because a lot of the guys come from external gate, factory turbo, and then we have turbo. I don't know. It still seems low. It still seems like they're restricted somewhere. Do you know if this one's it? That's not accurate. Do you know if this is an 8 or a 10 centimeter
I
housing?
think it's an 8.
It's an 8. I mean, that makes some sense. But the lag one, the fact that it's laggier than a 10, wouldn't make sense.
Is that not his power curve?
Yeah, that's the boost and torque. No, I'm sorry, that's boost and,
440 wheel?
no. It didn't.
What's that then?
That's an error. It's scattered.
Is it there? That's not right.
It's not right, no. The other number's close. The 415's right. But the other one, if I bring the other one up, you'll see there's a boop in it. So it just got a noise. Yeah. And then when I added ethanol, it didn't spool much faster. They usually spool almost 1,000 RPM faster.
That's
It didn't spool like at all. Like it was like 300 RPM. Maybe 300 RPM. Maybe. The first spool was laggier.
It'd be like 600 more RPM.
It should be, yeah, like 600 or more faster. Like it spools way faster. But this isn't doing it. So I don't know what's up with this.
Yeah, that up pipe is, they're what, this big?
They're pretty small from the factory, yeah. Because they have the 2 or 3 flexes in them and everything. And then there's that whistling sound. Whatever the fuck that whistle sound is.
I don't know what that is.
I don't know.
But the bypass valve caused it to lose power even if it was hitting 25 pounds?
Yeah. Yeah, because it would take more back pressure to hit that 25 pounds. Do we have another one around?
I'll look and see, but I don't think so. Not for this body style.
Let's see. This is Dale from Race Lab Industries. We had a Supra that was running into boost issues because the wastegate had a weird spring in it and it was binding and opening really high. It only had about 300 horsepower on it. Once he fixed it, it still went away and boosted less but had more power. Interesting. That's really interesting. Boosted less than maybe. Well, the Supra's got the electronic gate, right? Don't those stay open and then they pull shut? Or is it an external gate that was messed up? Are you taking deposit for crank pulley? Deposit? Crank pulleys are ready. You can buy a crank pulley whenever you want. The crank pulleys are available, and they have been for the last month or two. So you can absolutely buy a crank pulley at any time. Yeah, I don't know. What's up with this car? Anyways, spark plug temp again. I just want to reiterate that. So, why do you go down in temp? You go down in range because you've increased the power, either the total output or the duty cycle, okay? If you think about this now, the manufacturer has to put a plug of the appropriate heat range for a vehicle that's going to be idled a lot, it's going to sit in traffic a lot, it's going to cruise slowly down the highway, it's going to not have any or much track time. It has to be able to hot enough plug to stay clean under those conditions. Yeah, it's fine where it was. Yeah, I moved it because it was laying on something hot. What was I saying? Somebody remind me what I was saying. Oh, it has to handle the situation, right? So it has to be able to run hot enough under continual light load that it stays clean. So if I increase duty cycle, what does that mean? That means if I'm raising the amount of power the engine makes, I shouldn't say that. I should say raising the frequency at which it makes that power, that's a higher duty cycle. So if the engine makes 300 horsepower, but I'm on the racetrack, right? I'm on the racetrack, my duty cycle is really high. I have 300 horsepower for a way longer time than I would if I'm cruising on the highway. Now in that situation, the heat that heats the spark plug comes from combustion. So if I have more intense combustion, then I have more heat getting deposited in the plug. So in those situations where I'm racing and I have a high duty cycle, I got to cool that plug off. I go to a colder plug. If I put a racing plug in my daily driver, it will foul. And I used to do that. I used to have okay. I used to have an actual racing plug in my STI because I like to beat the shit out of it. That's what I did. And let's see this map really quick. And it was parked at the shop for about a month because we were doing some stuff. Oh no, it was winter and I wasn't driving it. And we would fire it up, pull it out, shut it off. At the end of the day, we'd fire it up, pull it back in, shut it off. It only took 3 days, plugs are fouled. That's it, 3 days, plugs are fouled. That plug was so cold, it couldn't even handle, that's a hard job for a spark plug, but factory plugs could do that. Factory plugs are hot enough that they could withstand that for a longer period of time than only 3 cycles. So I had to actually pull the plugs out and put factory plugs in the car just so we could keep firing up, moving in and out of the shop over the winter because it would just foul them out 3 times. So I mentioned that the heat of combustion is the heat that heats the spark plug. Clearly, where else would it come from? So if I have more combustion for more power, then that also puts more heat in the spark plug. But if I'm only doing it for a couple seconds, that's not an appreciable amount of heat into the plug that I gotta worry about detonation or pre-ignition or any of that kind of stuff. But if I'm doing continuous stuff where I'm on a drag strip and I'm making 800 horsepower and that kind of stuff, then you gotta do it. 207 is 1/7 plug versus US STI. Really? What plug is that? What's the factory plug number for a 207? We don't get the 207s here, obviously, so I don't know. I do know that the REP7, really? A regular fucking plug? That's weird. That's weird. Usually the factories have special plugs, you know, like the factory STI plug, for example, in the U.S. It's only in the Subaru. It's the only one that it's sold for. The SIL or whatever it is. laser iridium plug that they sell, or is it laser iridium? I think it's called laser iridium, right? That they sell for the Subaru. But if you want like a close equivalent, then you go with the LFR 7s or LFR 6s, you know, AIX, whatever. So it's very interesting that it would just be the regular BRE7. Or is it BPRE7? I forget. But yeah, it's interesting. But they did intend the 207 run at a higher duty cycle. They're sold over there as more of a track car than they're sold over here as. Also, the PFR7B. Okay, that makes more sense. That makes more sense. That's a different plug. But that's cool that they did a 7 from the factory. They're going to swap in aftermarket coil packs. Almost never. The factory Subaru coil packs are awesome. If you're having problems with them, you're either too rich, don't have enough dwell, not enough power to the coils, or you got old ass coils. Factory coil packs can get you 1,000 horsepower, so if you're having problems with them, they'll probably just wore out. Or you're running a really, really high RPM where the coils have less time to charge. But yeah, it's not often you need to do coil upgrades in the Subaru. What happens more often than coils not being large enough is the alternator is not large enough. And you'll see, once you start adding bigger fuel pumps and bigger injectors and stuff, that your voltage will start to drop during a pull. And if your voltage drops during a pull, your coil gets less energy and it doesn't work as good. What's up?
I gotta take off.
Why?
I have to get my hair cut before the wedding tomorrow, and I fly out at 6 a.m.
Oh yeah.
So it's 4 o'clock, so I gotta roll.
Fuck you, Chase.
Yeah.
Enjoy your weekend.
It'll be something.
Yeah.
See you later, alligator.
See you Monday.
Out the door.
Give it another pull.
What'd you do?
I think I figured it out.
Yeah?
Where the bypass valve adapter to the cop thing goes on that little hose, I looked under there and so here's the hose, here's the metal, is like this. And I wiggled it and moved. Which would cause a squeal of high pressure, so.
Yeah, let's give it a shot. Let's find out.
I rinsed it back down, checked the gasket, it looked fine. So.
Alright, let's find out.
I mean, it is in the area, I heard the squeal, so.
It's possible. Now, if you're running ethanol, you really benefit from the hotter plug. You're adding 28 to 35% more fuel mass into the cylinder. The extra spark plug heat helps you atomize the fuel around the spark plug. And so staying with a stock range plug can improve your burn quality, burn speed, and power. So I try to run stock range plugs for ethanol cars, and step coaler for pump gas cars, and 2-step coolers if it's a track car. Maybe even 3, depends on how much power it's making. Full time. I didn't hear a squeal, did you?
No, it was distinct before.
Yeah.
I thought I heard, like, no, that's just the wheel speed, I think.
Yeah, no, I didn't hear a squeal that time.
It was good.
Everything else is the same though.
Huh?
Everything else is the same though.
Maybe it's just a turd.
It could be just a turd. Yeah, airflow's the same. No squeal. I'm happy about that.
Hey,
That's
we're good.
fucking great. That's
No
one
squeal.
thing. Unfortunately, I was hoping that the squeal and the low power were related, and they're not. So, cool.
Cool.
I got a text message. Let's see. Well, fuck me. You know what else is all these 2020s and 2021s? They always make less power.
Well, even look at Richard's on Flex with a 3.0. It was like,
It made a lot less power.
it was like 440.
I think it's just the lower compression ratio. There's lower from the factory. 8 instead of 8.3.
Richard was expecting like the
3.2.
mid 5s. He
Yeah,
hit 440 on Flex. I'm like,
Yeah. He has stock up pipe too, right? I'm pretty sure he
he's
does.
externally gated up pipe.
Is he? Is he catted? Of course he is.
I think so.
I'm live streaming. Of course he is.
It's got 2 cats in
It's got 2 cats, yeah.
No, it was catted.
Okay. Yeah. Which one did we run? Cobb on that one?
Huh?
Did we run a Cobb on that one?
What?
Cobb downpipe. Oh, my McFlurry is now
I
McShake.
think his was a Cobb and this one's a Grimsby. Something like that. Yeah, Richards didn't make shit for power for what it had, and then anyways. Because he had 1300s too.
Yeah. What was we maxed out the 1000s?
So we put the 13s to go with the 3.0.
All right. Let me see what downpipes in this thing. Is it divorced?
It is.
It's divorced, isn't it? Oh, okay.
No, that's why.
I no longer have any questions. All right.
Is that why it's like a car?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
I think that's the only one we can get.
Yeah, I believe it.
If I had to guess.
Yeah. That makes more sense.
Not a big fan of them?
No. No. You see the stream where I showed how bad the wastegates are blocked? Yeah.
The one was all pushed over to fit the wastegate arm.
Yeah.
That explains it.
I think so.
Some of it.
I think so. Yeah.
That and the
I think a
up-pipe?
portion of it. I think up pipe and that down pipe together.
I think if you did,
TGV's up and down. I think we'd pick up 40 or 50 wheel on it.
I think if you did TGV mod, that's what we'll call it,
Just lower restriction TGV set.
and then do like a nice killer bee header with a nice up pipe.
Is it stock header still?
Yeah.
That hurts a little bit.
And
for
then
power.
do a better, like a bell mouth down pipe. I think that would put him in the power level it should be.
Yeah.
But 400 on this, he'll be happy with it, I'm sure.
Let's see. Rip of mine, 270 amp alternator. I am jealous of you, man. Let me tell you.
But
This guy here. I wish I had a big alternator in my car. And it's been a plague of mine for a long time. I can't keep
I got a
voltage.
big alternator in mine.
I know, but for the Subaru, they're so fucking expensive, dude. They were like $700, $800 for
Well,
an
they're talking about the
alternator.
turbo being a smartass.
Oh, yeah. Well, you're.
Some people think alternators are. Like, what's that? Your turbo? No, that's the alternator.
It's alternator. Yeah.
But I do have a 120 amp alternator in the Skyline. It was like $500 though.
That's not bad. 120 is not bad. I think mine's 120 also. Cause I have a 15 STI.
Oh, I can do
Alternator?
an LS alternator upgrade in mine.
You can fit an LS in yours.
They have a bracket that you.
I mean, you can do an LS engine upgrade in yours too if you wanted.
I don't want to.
Why not?
Not in that car.
It'd be
I'm
fun.
gonna keep a Nissan.
I know.
Maybe I'll get another. Maybe I'll get another Skyline. We'll swap that.
Okay.
My buddy is selling his 5.3 because he's getting away from his truck project, so I might have a 5.3. I might buy it.
Only if you boost it.
Well, obviously.
I'm just saying. Some people want an any build. I don't know who, but some people want an any build.
Well, you got a 6.2 or whatever, don't you?
Yeah, I went 6.2. Yeah.
You're literally a. You spent more there than a 5.3.
Right. It's like I added cylinders, but I didn't. Oh, shit balls. What's this envelope full of money right here for? Is that for me? I wish it was an envelope full of money in there. It's an envelope. I am done, yeah. But it wasn't full of money. Oh, shit.
Are we charging him any more for this tunnel section?
I think so.
I think you paid last time for the base tune. The regular tune, I don't think you paid for that tunnel tune yet.
Yeah, I don't think so either. I don't recall getting paid for it.
Oh, good.
For the ethanol portion of the tune.
I get you.
It made more on pump gas this time with the intake on it.
That's good.
Yeah.
Good little FYI there.
Yep. But I mean, I knew that'd be the case on the factory turbo. A Cobb SF with a factory intake will get you like 10 to 15 wheel alone. So, ooh, look at that. Awesome videography there with the finger.
What would you say the average car gain is by adding an SF?
SF on stock?
Yeah.
10 to 15.
Pretty good.
Yeah. Here, let me turn this around. This one here. So I gotta get rid of this one. You alright, buddy? What'd you hit? What'd you do?
I missed the pan.
I just felt the ground shake. That's all I know. We'll take a break. This one was the one I was talking about with static. Those are the accurate ones. Say what? What'd you hit that on?
Where I tried to catch myself.
Oh. Let me see it. Let me see your arm. Did you scrape it on right here?
Yeah.
Okay, there's your skin.
Yep.
There's your skin. Let's see. Ah, nice.
Fine. We're over it.
You're over it. Over it. You won't be in a little while when it turns purple. All right, I saw a message come in. Let me answer these messages here real quick. What do I got? La la la. Back. Okay, 12 packs. No. 270. I wish. The STI. That's what it is. Yep, for the STI. That's correct. Thank you. About what power range should you expect out of a DOM 1.5 on E? Killby headers, up pipe, high flow, TGV, ID 1050s. Yeah, it depends on the dyno. That's hard for me to say, right? Had a rad spring. I ran a small leak on a road trip. Nobody's gonna send a full cooling mod. Had a rad spring. Oh, spring a small leak on a road trip. Oh, that sucks. That sucks when you get leaks on a road trip because you never have all the tools you need to do the job, and you gotta deal with all that shit. That sucks. DOM 1.5. Yeah, that totally depends on the dyno, right? Like this dyno here, this dyno on pump gas, a DOM 1.5 with a top mount is probably like 325 to 330. On ethanol, it's like 350 to 360 ish on a top mount. On a front mount, you can usually get to the 400 mark on this dyno on E, but that's it. You saved my build, take credit. I don't know. I try to make parts that help fix cars. That's the whole idea. Like almost all the parts I make are parts where I said there's an issue with this. I need to figure out a way to fix it. So have I messed with their kits? That's a generic question because they have different types of kits. They have some that just go to the 5-volt TGV like everybody else. And they have other ones that try and hack sensors and you have to sign an NDA to use and all of that. And I would never touch that because that's bogus bullshit. But if it's a TGV input one and it's using complex fuel, then sure, whatever. Like I don't really care where the 5 volts is coming from as long as it's consistent and reliable. But I'm not a fan of that company's products. So I don't ever recommend it, their products, because I don't like the stuff that they do. But that's my own thing. So I wouldn't necessarily let that steer you away unless you have a 205 and you're trying to use their sensor hacking flex fuel. In that case, I would tell you don't waste your fucking time. Do it properly, not like that. I would use 0 to 5 on an Arero 2 and do a Carberry if you're like a 205 or something. Do the Carberry ROM with flex. Let's see. Best turbo for 500 wheel horsepower. The best turbo for it? G42 1200. You will have no problem hitting 500 wheel with that. At all. Yeah, I don't know what best turbo means, honestly. That's not... I mean, a turbo's either going to do it or it's not. And you can get them that spool better. So I would say if I wanted the fastest spooling turbo that could also support 500 wheel horsepower, it would be an EFR. But if I want a more durable turbo that spools almost as fast and can hit 500 wheel horsepower, then it'd be a Garrett. Hey, perfect. Then it'd be a Garrett like G30 550 or 660. It depends if you need 500 wheel horsepower and pump gas or 500 wheel horsepower and ethanol. Because if it's on pump gas, it ain't going to be the 550. You're going to have to do it. You have to get a 660 and push it kind of hard. But on ethanol, you could do it potentially with a 550. I did on this dyno. That's important to realize. This dyno, 500 horsepower at the wheels is like 600 on most other dynos. On this dyno, I did 498 on E, stock heads and cams, on a legacy black plastic manifold intake, etc. On a G25 660. And that was 498, and I was pushing it kind of hard. And then I did another car that did just over 400 wheel on that same turbo on a different rotated kit, and he was on pump. It was like 420. So, and that turbo spools really fast. I laid the 7670 curve from a similar build on top of the G25 660 curve, and they were really close. The 7670 still spooled a little bit earlier, but they made within 6 horsepower of each other on the top end. But it was, I mean, it was just a little bit. The 7670 was just a tiny bit sooner than the G25 660. And you can put a G25 660 in a car for way less than a full twin scroll kit. Now, it's important to realize that is not a factory location G25 660. You will not get that performance out of a factory location turbo. You will not. It is a huge difference between a stock location G25 660 and a rotated G25 660. Huge difference. Rotated will spool faster and make more power than a stock location G25 660. All day long, without a fucking doubt, all day long. Usually make 25 to 30 more wheel and spool 250 to 500 RPM sooner on a rotated G25 660 than a stock location G25 660. Let me make sure I get that out there, because a lot of guys try and get 500 wheel horsepower on a stock location turbo, and those guys I think are idiots, honestly, or uninformed, because stock location turbos suck. And if you're trying to get 500 wheel, then you can do it, but you have no bottom end and hardly any middle range at all whatsoever. So there's no point. Only reason to do that is because you're a cheap bastard that doesn't want to fucking go rotate and do it right, in my opinion. And I know it sounds harsh, but wow, this fucking chat blew up when I wasn't watching. So it's just dumb to try and cram all that air through a tiny turbo inlet that has to hang a turn behind the power steering pump, have all those hoses coming off at the jog behind the TGV. The air has to make these turns. It has to be a very compact compressor housing, even fit, not hit the block. And when it's compact, there's more restriction. It's not as efficient. Doesn't compress air as well. Doesn't flow air as well. And then you have the factory style turbine housings, which are restrictive by nature, and the way the inlet comes in, and it's offset from the center, and it has to get. I mean, it's crap. It's all crap. So stock location will never ever perform as good as a rotated setup with the same horsepower rating. Let's see. All right. So, Link ECU, yay or nay? Yeah, I mean, always yay. Over many things. Hey, Kendrick's here. What's up, Kendrick? Link is good. Equals goodness. Yep, I like it. Most reliable, I guess. Most reliable would be a Garrett turbo. So I have a thread or a video, one of them, on turbos and my take on them, and it was backed up by many tuners because they feel the same way about it. Reliability wise, the Garrett turbos are pretty hard to beat. They're just built really well. For a daily driver or for a track car, and I mean road course, not drag racing, the Garrett turbos are really hard to beat. They're just built really, really fucking good. For drag racing, the precision turbos are hard to beat. They don't spool as fast as the Garretts. They don't spool as fast as the EFRs, typically. But when you're drag racing, you don't need that. What they do have is really, really robust turbine wheels. Those turbos are made for drag racing. Those turbos are made for cars that have aggressive boost building launch control on them and that kind of stuff. Those turbos are made very tough for that. So their turbine wheels handle it pretty well. And they have compressors that flow really high pressure ratios. Like I said, they're not the fastest spooling, but they're pretty durable for drag racing. So it's hard to beat that if you're a purpose-built drag car. If you're a daily driver that also does some drag racing, you can't beat the Garretts, man. The Garretts are fucking great. If you are a track car and you need the best turbo response possible, or you're a daily driver and you want extra turbo response, it's hard to beat a Garrett. The Garretts, or not the Garretts, EFR. The EFRs respond tremendously. The those twin scroll turbos spool faster than anything else on the market, and they move some serious power. They do really good. The problem is durability on them. They're not that tough. So if you have a launch control on it that's aggressive, and you're not watching turbine speed, or you're pushing that turbo to its limits, it can very easily come apart. That's a common issue with them. They will come apart. You got to keep them under their speed limits. Otherwise, they go, the wheels come apart. So it's not a good drag racing turbo because you're on the line, right, feeding it, banging gears. And what a lot of people don't know is when you hear compressor surge, often during compressor surge, the turbo is speeding up. It's not slowing down. So you're sometimes the speed goes up before it goes down during that event, and that results in an overspeed of the turbocharger, and you can blow it to bits. Now that being said, the 9180 had a lot of problems. It used to blow itself to pieces all the time. So then they made the 9174, and that became more durable. And I only say durable because it has a smaller turbine wheel, and therefore it had a higher speed limit, higher shaft speed limit before it blows itself to pieces. You can still blow it to pieces if you see the shaft speed limit, but the limit was now higher because they shrunk down that turbine wheel. So most reliable, it's almost always the Garretts. They're 150. Yep. Yeah, Garretts are just one of the most reliable turbos out there. Plain and simple. And if you got a daily driver and you do some track racing on the side and maybe some drag racing or some autocrossing and shit, it's hard to beat the Garrett. It's just the best all-around turbo for everything. It really is. The new G series turbos are really amazing. I like them a lot. And the GTX Gen 2s fucking rip too. Those are all good turbos. So the G25 550 spools really fast. I mean, dumb fast. How much do you charge for speed density tuning? Oh, back up. Oh, way more. Top mount nickel limit's 50 wheel horsepower. No shit. Oh yeah, for sure. All day long. The top mount can only do so much, and heat is a killer. You got to get rid of the heat, and top mounts just can't do it at high flow rates. Have a chance to look at IG's new ported OE oil pump. If so, I'm curious if there's something you would recommend for a 500 wheel. Power has nothing to do with it. Let me get that out there. Power has nothing to do with the oil pump you're running. At all. Nothing to do with it. So, the answer to that is no. I don't recommend it for anything because of the power it's making. I haven't looked at their pump. I poured an OE pump. I've been doing it for years. I don't know what they port on theirs, but if your car came with a 10, no, I don't recommend an 11. There's no point. Putting too big of a pump on your car is a faster way of spinning bearings than going too small. Pump, because ethanol is hard to find. How much you charge for speed density tuning? It's an extra $150 charge on top of the normal tuning fee. So if you're a math car, for example, if it's the standard stuff, it'd be $400, and then the speed density would be another $150. And that does not include dyno time. I shared with my friend buying my short block, going FP green, staying top mount. Well, he doesn't want to make a whole lot of power then. Even though you dislike stock lace turbos, what are some of your preferred stock lace turbos for the 375 horsepower range on pump? Well, again, depends on the dyno, so I can't necessarily give you an accurate answer on that because of dynos read so drastically different. Like I said before, this one here, I took a car off this dyno I had a customer that I tuned on my old dyno, and she made like 430. And then she did some more mods, and she brought the car here to the new dyno like 3 years later. And after all the mods and retuning, made 385. And she was like, "Where'd my power go?" And I'm like, "You're making more power than before." "What are you talking about? It was 430 before. Now it's 385. And it's two different dynos. They read differently. Not convinced. Took her to the other dyno shop that I sold my dyno to. Put it on there. 455 wheel. Same day. 385, 455. That's how dynos read. They're just fucking different. So, you know, you gotta be specific as to whose 375 you're talking about. Because it's my 375, that's 450 on somebody else's dyno. So, I mean, shit, on this dyno, I ran 10s with no grip, burning all through first gear on the track. I trapped 137 miles an hour and ran 10.7. Now, the 137, that means I was fucking moving on the top end and would have had a much lower time had I gotten out of the hole effectively. And not had a 1.8 60 foot or whatever it was, something slow, as it just burned all 4 tires. Shitty track prep. No track prep, really, and all that. That was a 525, 535 wheel on this dyno. Running out of fuel, too, by the way. I was getting way lean. I did 2000s, were at 120% duty cycle, which means 20% more than open. And they weren't ever closing. My fuel pressure was dropping like 25 psi or less. So I wasn't able to keep fuel in the motor. And that's what I did. So, on another dyno, I had 600 wheel horsepower, and I barely cracked into the high 11s, just to put some perspective on it. We had an Evo do 575 on this dyno, go to a dyno jet the same day, make 725 on the dyno jet. Got the tune here, went and got his bragging sheet somewhere else, ran a 9.7 that day, that night at the track. I want to hear something cool, by the way. Continental's replacing my tires. Great tires, great customer service. The radial torque steer problem I'm having? Interesting. Because they're so far out around or something? That's really interesting. What do you think of DC power alternator versus power loss for the added output? I honestly don't know. I know that if I can't keep my fuel pump spinning fast enough, I can't keep fuel in the motor, and I can't keep my coil packs charged up, then the power loss by not doing the alternator is even greater because I'm missing cylinders. So, I need the juice to run the pumps. I need the juice to run the coil packs. I need the juice to push the injectors. If I can't get it, then I'm not going to make the power. So it's worth it in that regard. Also, it isn't like alternators make more power than you need. So it isn't like just because it can do 140 or it can do 270, it's always doing 270 and you're losing that horsepower of the crankshaft. I mean, if that was the case, you'd pop your battery out of the trunk and that kind of stuff. So alternators are going to provide what it needs to provide to keep everything powered. So I don't think there's going to be a significant drag increase on it that's going to cause you to lose power. You're going to need to turn mechanical power into electrical power to make your mechanical things work so you can make mechanical power on the crankshaft again. So I think that I don't really see a negative to having a good, powerful alternator. Broken cam gears or stock plastic ones. Happened to me and have seen some instances. Yeah, that's a problem. It can happen. It can happen when people break them accidentally or don't realize that they cracked them by using like an impact to get them off, impacting the nuts or something while they're holding it with channel locks, or I've seen tensioners fail and increase the friction on the belts, which then breaks those gears and pulls them inward and breaks them. Same thing for the cams sticking in the head. I've seen cam problems break those. So there's all kinds of things that can happen for that stuff. Typically, if it's gonna be a car that I'm gonna run hard and I have big aftermarket cams on or in with a stronger belt, I'll go to like a steel adjustable exhaust pulley anyways, or gear, to save or prevent that from happening. It's like my car, I'd have BC exhaust gears, work fine. Always wondered about running a twin scroll header on a single scroll turbo. T3 divided header up pipe to T3 flange, single scroll turbo, for example. Why? That'd be my question. Why? I don't think there'd be any point to that. I don't believe you would achieve anything at all. Anytime you increase exhaust volume, you increase lag. So if I have to do that, I have to run really small primaries. I can just go single scroll with a slightly larger primary and get the same response out of it, since you're single scrolled the turbo anyways. You're not doing anything differently than an equal length header would do with a single scroll up pipe or anything like that. So yeah, I don't see any point in that. I know Full Race has their 1.5 scroll, which is basically what you're saying. They have a twin scroll equal length header that goes into an up pipe, and the up pipe Y's into a single scroll before the turbo. They like it, but really it's just a reason to have your same header on a car that has a single scroll turbo. Like, I don't really see a point. Reduce exhaust volume between the engine and the turbo if you want fast response. Plain and simple. Reduce the volume. Put the turbo closer, make the primary smaller, whatever it takes, you know, do it smaller. You built on your STI, you did the scroll and a half, Kendrick? That's where you put the turbo sideways, right? Fuck, that was a long time ago. I remember that phone call with you, by the way. I was at the original MPF in Arlington telling you that I wanted to turn a turbo sideways and put the air filter in the scoop. I remember where I was sitting when we had that conversation too. And then you gave me the same old thing that you give me every time. It's your same interesting tone that you have. You say interesting, and as you ponder it on the phone, I'll never forget that. Of course, I've heard that from you like 100 times, right? Every phone conversation we have. Interesting, you say. And I respond with, hell yeah, it's interesting. It doesn't even involve hookers. Just packing up my computer here. Oops, nice. Man, my videography today is just on point. Gonna pack up my laptop and get ready to go. I have dinner plans. And I need a nap beforehand. I had a sleep study last night. I don't know if you guys know what a sleep study is. They hook you up to all these electrodes and stuff, and they put tubes in your face and tubes in your nose and electrodes on your balls. No, I'm just kidding. They don't put on your balls. But they do put on your legs and your back, your chest, your brain, to watch your brain waves and all that. And they put you in bed, and then they watch you sleep through a camera. It's not creepy or anything, I swear. And I was supposed to sleep for them so they can watch me sleep. And I couldn't fucking sleep. I might have got a couple hours of sleep all night last night. I could not freaking sleep. I need a live stream. Since finding your videos, I really enjoyed your knowledge and insight. You're a CNC Swiss machinist. So you make Swiss Army knives? Or are you from Swiss origin and you're also a machinist? I'm just trying to understand. I'm being a smart ass, obviously. I know what you mean. Welcome. Well, I'm glad. Thank you. Thank you for coming. Thank you for the kind words. I try and be as helpful as I possibly can. Give people ideas. Like to inspire some creativity when it comes to their builds, but also help negate a lot of the hearsay that's out there. I don't know. I used to be a teacher, so I taught for 7 years. And I love to do it, and so when I get the opportunity to do it, either in these streams or my Discord channel, or person, face to face, I like to do it. I haven't been able to teach at the college since COVID happened, so I haven't had any lectures there in a couple years now, and that means I get just a little extra time to do it here for everybody else, but also do fun car stuff. We're standing in front of a stack of tires. Too many tires, and half of them are mine. Sorry, Chase. There's snow tires back there somewhere for like 3 of my cars. I need to get my garage situated better so that I can take all of my stuff home and not burden Tier 1 with my stuff. Speaking of which, I have a set of snow tires for sale. They only have like a half a season on them. They're Blizzaks LM001s or something like that. They're for sale. They're 17 inchers and they're fucking terrible. The reason I still have them is because I feel so guilty if I sold them. Obviously, I paid good money for them and found out that they're absolutely freaking trash. The worst snow tire I've ever had on any vehicle. It was so comically bad. I was going down the side street here and I was showing Nick, hey, check how bad these things are. Going down the road, 35 miles an hour, I just go all the way to the lock and then all the way to the other lock. Car just kept going straight. Kept going straight, nothing happened. Then I had to brake like half a block early because they wouldn't stop either. They were just so bad. The worst snow tire I've ever had. They're really just like a slush tire or a really heavy rain tire. They remind me of the Goodyear Aqua Treads. That's like as good as they are. They're absolutely trash. Unfortunately, Bridgestone sells them as a Blizzak, as a snow tire. But they know it's a piece of shit tire because they won't honor their 90-day warranty on them. Like if you don't like them, they say, you know, get them 9 days later, you can return them. Doesn't apply to that tire. Doesn't apply to that tire because they know it sucks apparently. Yeah, so that was a bummer. I think it's low. It's too low.
Yeah, the tuner on the butt too.
Yeah, well, I didn't tune it, so I'm just kidding.
Is it butt?
Just kidding.
The throttle tip in is horrendous.
Is it bad?
You need to get
Blood.
every time.
That sucks.
So you get into like throttle.
But if you're looking for some shitty snow tires, you want to buy them from me, feel free. Shit, I got distracted again. Oh well, that happens. Happens when you have a short attention span.
What size wheel are
17s. The Discord is sweet, is awesome by the way. Hey, good, I'm glad you like it. Thank you. And so anybody else that wants to join it, join the Discord. Come say hi. Medical bone screws. I like the negating of hearsay the most. Oh, you make medical bone screws. Okay, so it took me a second there. Nice. That's got to be kind of cool. And in fact, Chase has some in his body still, so maybe he has one of yours. Do I have a tuning problem, or are rough E85 cold starts normal? Rough E85 cold starts are fairly normal, especially on factory ECUs. On standalones, they should be something you can tune out. Now you say Platinum Pro, and the Platinum Pro might not have. Do it. The Platinum Pro might not have enough tables to do a cranking enrichment based on ethanol percentage. And I don't know if they have a post-start based on ethanol percentage either. Because the Platinum Pro it's a little lacking in some of the features. However, some of them still have user or generic adjustable tables that you can implement. So if you go into the settings section and you go under fuel, you get the little check boxes and you can select what kind of compensations you want to use. If it doesn't have like cranking comp for ethanol or post-start for ethanol or for fuel composition, I think they call it, then you can select a generic comp, and then in that generic comp, you can make the axes something useful for your post-start. So you can add it to, I would make one axis engine runtime. I would do one axis as engine runtime and another axis as coolant temp. And if it has a Z available, use the Z as a ethanol. If it doesn't have that, then you have to use ethanol or fuel comp as an axis, and then use post-start or use engine runtime, and then just tune it for pump, leave that side 0, and then on the right side where the ethanol concentration is higher, add some percentage at the lower counts of engine cycles, and then have it zeroed out by, you know, a minute or two. That, you know, with like a exponential decay or something to help get you a little more fuel initially and not so much later on. That's how I think I would take care of it if I needed to do that. But if it has a fuel comp based on all of that, then that's what you got to adjust. But if you're 30 degrees outside and you're full ethanol, full 85, it's gonna be hard. You got a task on your hands. That's definitely a hard thing to do. Yeah, so it is a challenge, that's for sure. Trying to learn how to tune, mostly just the basics. I did the Access Tuner training. Don't feel like I learned much. Any advice on getting started? Well, my Discord, I have lessons in the Discord. I have, I think, just 5 modules right now in there with lessons that cover essential concepts on tuning. The Access Tuner class is more about how to use their software and less how to tune an engine. So it is not adequate to learn how to tune an engine by any stretch. EFI 101 by itself, not adequate. Even their advanced class by itself, not adequate. Like it takes a lot of education to be able to properly tune a car and to learn how to do it, because you need to understand to do it right. I mean, you can get by, you know, with basic shit without knowing, you know, the in-depths. But when something goes wrong or you can't figure something out, you're gonna be clueless. You gotta know how electrical circuits work. You gotta know how the sensors work. You gotta know chemistry, so you understand how combustion works. You gotta know heat transfer, thermodynamics, fluid flow, physics, basic math, be able to do ratios, conversions, unit conversions, you know, just a lot of that kind of stuff. So my Discord class, I have a whole section on heat transfer and how it applies to like radiators and intercoolers. I have a section on ignition advance, which you're actually doing, because most people go into tuning thinking more is better and that's all there is to it, and that is so far from the truth. I teach you what you're actually doing with ignition timing and not what the internet tells you should be doing. I don't think I've talked about fueling, actually. Talked about cam timing. We go really in depth into cam timing. Go really in depth into ignition advance. I did a soft section on turbochargers and that kind of stuff. I did a pretty inclusive section on idle control. Yeah, and then of course there's my videos. I got 200 something videos where I'm tuning cars, or I'm showing you how boost control systems work, or I'm showing you, you know, spark plug gap and what blowout is, like we talked about today a little bit. I have, you know, hundreds of videos doing that too here on YouTube, so you can check those out if you'd like. I provide some links to some of the associated videos to the topic at hand in the training section. So if you're interested really and you want to get a chance to ask me questions at times other than just when I'm live streaming, that's the way to do it. It's a small subscription fee. It's really small, really. When you consider how much other courses cost, it is really cheap. So yeah, that's where you get started. And then I'll tell you what college classes you need to take if you want to be really good at it. If you want to just get by to do your own shit and only blow a few engines up here and there, then you can bypass that stuff. But if you want to actually be good at it, you want to really understand what's going on, then I think they're essential. This car's cold. That's the throttle response right there. That shit works good. And they respond like instantly. And it's loud. It's so crispy.
Good dipping. Way better than Evo.
Yeah, way better than the Evo. Yeah, exactly.
Can't wait to get
Yeah, I can't wait for that thing to show up. It'll be good.
You got 2 of them?
I got one for you, one for this, one for me. This one has 1 gauge on the side. Yours has 2 gauges, 1 on each side. Mine has 2 gauges on each side
Nice.
for the RS. So.
Is yours similar design?
I mean, it's gauged on both sides, but mine's stubby and round, and yours is longer and skinnier. So, yeah, it's a little different. It looks a little goofy in mine because it has less space. Like yours makes more sense because it's spread out around the gauge, so the same amount of material around it, so it looks like it fits really nice. Mine, it squishes down on the side, so yeah, it's gonna look fine when they're in there. Let's 2 gauges for sure. Let's see. Hey, Jason. Awesome. Thank you. You're very welcome, Daniel. My use inexpensive, not cheap. Your knowledge is above a lot of the internet. Oh, thank you. Yeah, you're right. It's inexpensive. It's like $8 a month, I think, is all I charge right now is $8 a month. So, yes, that is not very much money. It is a good value. What gauges do you run? I have BT Industries. Brandon Talmott, I think his last name is, or something like that. He has BTI gauges. They're can-based gauges. They're mostly 3D printed housings with screens and stuff on them. They're really sweet. They're the ones I have in my RS. Makes a nice 7-inch screen, and it has like blinker indicators built in the top already with little LEDs and that kind of stuff. Where other people, you gotta either run blinker indicators in your dash next to it, or you gotta feed these inputs and do some stuff on the screen or whatever. Like it's got the colored shift lights and warnings and that kind of stuff. Touch screen, and with some things you can communicate between that and the EMS to enable modes and all of that. So it's a pretty cool system. I like it. The dude's really busy. He's hard to get a hold of sometimes. I try and promote his products a lot and try to sell a lot of them and buy a lot of them, but sometimes it takes a while to get them because he's so backed up. He makes good products, so that's kind of how it works, right? His can gauge, all 52 mil can gauge, I love it. It's great. You can display so many things at once on it, or just one thing, You have 12 screens individually programmable for the settings that you want to see, as long as it's on the CAN bus available to it. It's pretty cool. What is your goal with the damper that would be different than the fluid damper? My goal is to be better. The fluid damper, what I don't like about the fluid damper is it relies, and what that means is that at low RPM, it's not as effective. And at high RPM, it becomes more effective, but it still isn't. It's not directly coupled, so the core rotates inside the pulley, and the amount of energy transferred is proportional to how much slip there is between the core and the speed of the crankshaft, which means at 4,000 RPM, at different times, you will get a different amount of damping effect based on whether you're going up or going down, whether you've been in an area or you're there and then you punch it. Right? There's going to be a different damping quantity on the crankshaft pretty much all the time. It's not going to be very consistent. My system is 100% coupled. There's some slip, but it's not done based on slip. It's done based on the strength of the wave. And so the instantaneous change in crankshaft velocity is what creates a difference between the pulley speed and my weight. And then the weight that's in there is shaped a special way to have 16 chambers that 50 weight, maybe 100 weight. I have to finish testing on that, figure out which one I'm going to use. Viscous fluid is pumped through these chambers, and by pumping, it uses energy to put it either to the crankshaft or from the crankshaft in an effort to stabilize the crankshaft to a medium. That's the best I can say it. So I have 16 chambers, and the chambers will flow fluid proportional to the rate of change of the crankshaft and the amplitude of the crankshaft velocity graph, I should say. And that changes how much coupling I get from the disc to the pulley, which therefore provides more damping when the crankshaft would be experiencing more torsional vibration. If the crankshaft is experiencing no torsional vibration, then there would be hardly any damping. The damper would go to a middle position essentially and not provide as much damping. But if the crankshaft moves quickly or starts to have, a vibration, then that damper is going to reduce the movement in either direction to try and achieve a stability. So the object is to reduce the amplitude of the crankshaft. Ooh, don't touch that. Crankshaft velocity to reduce torsional vibrations and to do it much more effectively than any of the dampers on the market. It'll definitely beat the shit out of an ATI because all it is just a weight on an O-ring. And it should, by design, be far superior to the fluid damper because I have 100% coupling. I can transfer every bit of energy from the weighted slug to the crankshaft because it is 100% coupled. So it can get full transfer of all the energy from one to the other. And that's something that the fluid damper doesn't have. That being said, the fluid damper is like $480, and it's that's almost what it cost me just to make mine. It's a simple design. It's just a round disc in a cavity with fluid in it. That's all the fluid damper is. Mine is a very intricate 16-chambered system that has half of the chambers on the disc, the other half is on the pulley. So it has to be machined, precisely, put it in a certain orientation. I have O-rings and seals and ports and everything in there. So it's definitely a more complex thing to do, and obviously it's more expensive to make because of that. How is testing for the damper? It's not going right now. Actually, the test car that I'm supposed to be doing it on, I can't get fucking parts for it because everything's stuck out in the ocean, right? So it's almost ready to run, but I'm waiting for Subaru to give me some parts so I can put this car back together. So it's not going. It's just sitting there waiting. Why do clapped out Foresters with STI swaps go for more than a real used STI? I don't know why that would be. I don't honestly. I mean, Foresters are cool and all, like to some degree, but I don't get the level that some people are crazed about their Foresters. It's definitely a cult following of sorts. So, how do you test it? Okay, so the way I test it, right? What I'm trying to do is I'm trying to reduce. If I took my crankshaft velocity curve, it's going to look like this. Okay, if you take your crankshaft speed and you enter a compression stroke, the speed's going to drop. When you get to combustion stroke, the speed's going to pick up. When you exhaust it's going to, combustion is going to pick up. It's going to slow down through exhaust and compression, then speed up through combustion, right? So I have this amplitude, and the lighter the rotating components and the slower the speed of the engine, the greater the amplitude is going to be. If I have good damping, I can take that amplitude and I can reduce it down and shrink the amplitude. So what I'm using is an M-Tron ECU. If I use an M-Tron ECU, it has a DRPM, and D is derivative, not delta in this regard. So it's the derivative. It's the derivative of the RPM, which is going to be the acceleration it's an instantaneous rate of change of crankshaft speed. So I can plot that and then put the different dampers on it and see the difference in how it performs from one damper to the other. So that's how I will test it. I will test it with a direct measurement of crankshaft speed from factory, fluid damper, a Perrin, which has no damping at all, and then my pulley without the damper and pulley with the damper. So that's my plan, is do the 5 tests on all of those. I will do them at idle. I'll do them at a couple different RPM zones, just see how it behaves in some areas. I put a lightweight flywheel in the car just to increase that amplitude, so I can have more of a worst case scenario or a less case scenario in the car, so that I can see how much better my damper works in theory than the others. But what that also does is that gets me information on the fluid damper and the Perrin and that kind of stuff too. So I'll have direct testing results for those other dampers. And I don't know if they're gonna want me to release it or not, but it's not their fucking business, right? I'll do it anyways. But it may not be as good or as in favor as they would like it to be. Yeah, I mean, one could hope. One could hope. I mean, I've gone through it so many times, and I've simulated the movements, and I've, done the math. I think it's gonna be pretty freaking close. I think it's been pretty freaking close to performing how I think it's supposed to. So, anyways, I gotta end the stream. I gotta go. I gotta drive. I also gotta use the bathroom. But I gotta go home. I gotta get my stuff ready because my wife and I are going to dinner with some friends, and we're gonna go have some sushi. Love me some sushi. Gonna get some of that and just hang out a little bit, try and relax a little bit before tomorrow when I got a bunch more tunes to do and all that stuff. So thank you guys for coming by. I hope it was educational at some regard, and I hope that you guys didn't mind listening to me ramble for a while. So if you have more questions, feel free to email me. Stop by the Discord. Go to my shop.GetaDomTune.com. In the tuning section, I have the Discord subscription tab. In the description is a link, and that link will take you to the server. You can access the server without the subscription. You just can't access the educational section without the subscription. But you can still get in there and ask me questions and shoot the shit. And again, we have gaming stuff, we have meme channels and Facebook mechanic channels and all kinds of things like that. So you can come in and share your build with everybody and do all those things, say hi. And then if you decide, you know what, I want to check out this educational section, then you just buy the subscription. It sends me a message, I activate your account, and then you get to see the educational stuff too. So it's super inexpensive. It's only $8 a month. And I think the lessons are fairly inclusive for each subject. And of course, ask questions in the discussion, and I can answer them or provide references and that kind of stuff so that everybody in the channel can learn from your question. So that's it. Yeah, I think that's it. I need an outro. Help me figure out an outro. The lockpicking lawyer, his is always exactly the same, And in any case, that's all I have for you today. If you like this video, like to see more like it, please like and subscribe. If you want to, that kind of thing. So he's got his outro all the time, and I need some kind of outro other than have a good night.